welcome to today's hot off the presses new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I am your host, Mr. Boomstick XL, and someone is really just rubbing the mic. That's not good. Listen, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Obviously, this is the best and most positive Xbox news program for you each and every week. And of course, we have an incredible packed amount of things to talk about. But of course, before we get into the topics, we need to break down the very special men that are a part of this program each and every week. And we're going to start off with first our representative of PlayStation Nation, still costing me an arm and a leg, which is about 50 cents, to be here to represent Xbox and, of course, Halo, his favorite game of all time. Please welcome Mr. Bad Bit.
When you said Men, for some reason it gave me the Men in Tights theme, and I just missed that movie.
It's great.
What's up, everybody? I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk some Xbox, even though I got PlayStation lights behind me. I'm excited, and now that I think about it, I could change this light to green. I think. I need an Xbox light. When I'm on the show, I need an Xbox light. You know,
we definitely got to get you an Xbox light for sure. But Joe, it's always great to have you a part of today's program. Thank you for being here. You're going to see someone missing from the panel, and Zemi Games is not hiding in the corner because he's attempting to play the medium. He is actually taking care of some very personal family business. He's okay, but he will be back next week in his chair that he normally sits in and cowers in the presence of Resident Evil 8. But let's welcome next Archimedes, I would say this all the time, one of the finest and most incredible new podcasters / content creators to come along in a very long time. His videos have inspired me personally to not only learn the program, but start doing videos on my own. And I've dropped 4 in the last 2 weeks, along with 4 live shows per week, and I am having a blast. Please welcome Archimedes.
Boom, you are doing so good with your videos, and I'm glad I inspired you. No, thank you for having me today. Even though I played a lot of PlayStation over the last week, I finished Miles Morales and Astro Bot and played a little bit of Days Gone on my PlayStation 5. I'm still really happy to talk Xbox today. We have some cool topics, and I can't wait for today's show.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, as people are going to see, running in the background, I got some Forza Horizon 3, the Hot Wheels edition. We're going to be talking about some Hot Wheels stuff coming to Forza Horizon 4, but I figured I stayed up late last night and I recorded not only Hot Wheels, but of course, just about every track I could find, including Snow Mountain, which was just another fantastic, I think Blizzard Mountain, that's what it is. And because we're in the winter, and of course, we just got bombed with snow here in New York and Jersey, where you are, Joe. You're still digging out. It is just ridiculous.
Real talk, how much snow you got?
We got almost 2 feet of snow here, 22 and a half inches.
We beat you by 4. We got like
what's that in the metric system?
You know what? I couldn't tell you, but it's a lot of damn snow. That's
it's
for
like
sure.
This much.
Yeah, it definitely is tall. I'll put it this way: it may not be as tall as a PlayStation 5, though. See, that's the difference, because that sucker is really tall.
Actually, it's like 2.5 PlayStation 5s.
2.5 PlayStation. Okay.
I love it.
Measuring unit. We measure in PlayStations.
Yep.
Well, listen, let's continue with the introductions. Next up, someone who actually gave me the heads up that he wasn't feeling well last night. Thankfully, he has recovered. Please welcome VJ. What's going on, dude? How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm good, Boom. I may sound a little inebriated and thus somewhat non-compos mentis, but I can assure everyone that it's entirely down to some self-medication.
Nice.
On that note, Boom, please go take it forward.
Well, thanks for being here, brother. Definitely appreciate that and glad that you're feeling better. And last and no way least, our nominated artist. You know him as the VGHD, but we here on this show call him 3-Bit. Welcome to the program, dude.
Hey man, it's good to be back and talk some games. Took a little bit of break last week, but I'm ready to jump in with you guys. Good to see you, Bad Bit, Archimedes, BJ. Let's go.
Well, listen, again, folks, we have a great show planned for you today, and some pretty interesting news. Obviously, certainly topics that are going to be worthy of a conversation for sure. You know, being that we have Forza Motorsport and Forza Horizon 3 on the screen, let's talk about what was just unearthed. Apparently, a leaked new Hot Wheels edition of cars is coming to, of course, Forza Horizon 4. And listen, I don't know how many people played with cars as kids, but I played with Hot Wheels. I loved them. And what's crazy is a lot of the cars that are there for you to download, not only in Forza Horizon 3, but Forza Horizon 4, which it's a 6-pack coming up, I had as a kid, which is it's just bananas. And probably if I were to say that of all of the Forza Horizons and the Forza Motorsports that have released in the last, 10 years or so, going all the way back to the OG Xbox, my favorite racer of all times is Forza Horizon 3, but more specifically the Hot Wheels edition where you're running around on orange track, because that is just... Man, talk about nostalgia. But it appears that the best racing game ever, crafted, in my opinion, is somehow going to get better. With a childhood favorite of many of the in the community, thanks to a story that I pulled from Windows Central and who uncovered it by Twitter user AR12 Gaming. The 6-car pack featuring the 2 Jets 2018 Hot Wheels, the Chevrolet LUV 72 Hot Wheels, the International Harvester 1969 Hot Wheels car, the 1957 Nash Metropolitan Hot Wheels car, and there are a few others. The AM Roadster from 57, and the Ford F5 Dual Custom from 1949. Folks, think about that for a second. Obviously, I'm not that old. Okay, I was born in 1970, so these cars I don't remember. But I can tell you that I am sure there's going to be someone that is going to pick up and play this game, and I'm going to remember having that car as a kid. Mm-hmm. And you just can't. Listen, I don't know how you can spin it any more positive than it being in there, because obviously these cars are wicked old. But the fact that they're in there and they're being recreated for us to play in Forza Horizon 4 is just bananas. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. When I first read the story, because I normally read the stories multiple times so I get things right when I write it, and I got over the moon excited, because when they said Hot Wheels, I thought we were getting another Hot Wheels track. It turns out that right now it's just the 6-pack of cars. Now, I don't know if they're going to cost anything, but they might. But I think if you have Game Pass, you might be able to download it for free. I'm not exactly sure. But here's the question that I have for the chat, and of course the esteemed panel. With the Hot Wheels pack being added or leaked by accident, is it safe to assume, without making a boob out of ourselves, that a Hot Wheels DLC could be around the corner? Joe, I want to go to you first on this. Now, obviously, as a PlayStation fan, I think most PlayStation fans are waiting for Polyphony to get their shit together and get a new Gran Turismo for the PlayStation 5. I don't know when that's going to happen, but obviously, in the meantime, and being that you have multiple consoles, you have an Xbox. So, playing Forza would be just as good, potentially even better. Is it safe to assume that we're getting some more Hot Wheels DLC?
Oh yeah, definitely. From what I understand, those DLCs are insanely popular, and to get something while we're still kind of in the lull period of both of these next gen consoles, giving us a reason to go back in is always great, and giving the community something to get excited about as well, knowing that there was not a Forza last year, and let's be honest, who knows what happens this year with how development is. This is a good in between experience to get people reintroduced to Forza and introduced to Forza for the first time. So if you are, walking into the Xbox system ecosystem with a clean slate, you kind of then know what to expect. So yeah, and as a fan of Hot Wheels as a kid, man, these were my jam, and I did not get to experience these DLCs. So I would love, this would give me a reason to hop back into this game. So I love what I'm seeing right here. This is dope.
Yeah, again, this is a small story to kind of, as we wait for the people
Yeah.
to pile in. We're already at over 200 people. We're only a few minutes into the first topic, which is awesome. Hopefully, we'll get 400 people, maybe 5, maybe 6. Hell, let's push for dealer-esque numbers and get 3,000 people watching. I don't know. I think I'm still sleeping, but maybe one day. But listen, Archimedes, look, it's safe to say that right now, until Polyphony brings out a banging, Gran Turismo, Forza's king, right? And now again, there's two flavors here because there are, car, fanatics that love the tuning, that love what goes into motorsport. I'm not. I buy the games, but I'm not that dude. I like the game. I will buy it every year, and I will buy the car packs with it. But for me, as you can tell by what's going on in the screen, I like driving all over the place. I like running other cars off the road. I love being very aggressive in how I drive. I like driving a Warthog, which is one of my favorite vehicles in this DLC for Forza Horizon 3. Do you think that because of this car pack, are we on the cusp of getting a potential second track?
Okay, of course it could be. Now I'm playing selfish game, and I say hopefully not, because I want the full Forza Horizon 5 this year.
Okay.
Yeah, no. The DLC was really good. And like you, I dare say Forza Horizon 3 is better, or was better, than Forza Horizon 4.
I agree.
Even though Forza Horizon 4 did a lot of things better, it just didn't hook me as much as Forza Horizon 3 did, and the DLC was definitely one of the reasons. So I'd love to have such a DLC coming, and like Joe said, it would be a perfect way to bridge that gap that we have right now in between the console launch and until the stream of big AAAs coming rolling in. We have that first year that we have to bridge somehow, and we have seen that, for instance, a Hivebuster DLC did an amazing job of getting people excited for Gears again. A lot of people talked about that game or that DLC as if it was a real new release, and it is a perfect way to bridge that gap right now. But I am still hoping that the rumors are true, that we are getting this fall another Forza Horizon game. And of course, if that's the case, I would say save that DLC for Forza Horizon 5.
Maybe, yeah,
and bring it in there.
Yeah. I mean, listen, unless of course it's going to just move forward. You know what I'm saying? Like they release it on Forza Horizon 4, still supporting that game, and then of course then just bring that forward. Because the one thing we don't know is exactly what they're going to do to move both of these franchises forward. Like we heard that that the motorsport is going to be very different than what we remember in Forza Motorsport 7. Horizon, they're looking to make some big changes as well. The question is, how big? And is it going to be like an open world kind of a thing? Like here's my stab at it. You turn around and there's been a multitude of DLCs, right? You have Blizzard Mountain, you have the Hot Wheels track, which of course I'm still playing, and the game is years old. Could they make just an open world hub where all of these former DLCs are available in new ways as well as what's going to come in Forza Horizon 5, making it the biggest game ever? I don't know, and I think that I would love to see them go that way.
I love that idea. Sure love that idea. I mean that you mean we could get something like the, let's say, Master Chief Collection or the Forza Horizon Collection, where you have just certain areas and a certain hub world, and then you could just drive into your favorite Forza game. And of course, then the Forza Horizon 5 is the shiny new area with all the bells and whistles from next gen. But I'd love to see that.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. So let's get over to VJ. VJ, look, there are a lot of reasons why most gamers want a new Forza. We haven't had a Forza in a couple of years, for sure. Forza Horizon 4, for many, was fantastic. They did a lot of things with the seasons, for instance, and the night and day cycles. It's just, I mean, they did a lot of really great things. But like Archimedes said, for me personally, it didn't hook me like Forza Horizon 3. First of all, with the evidence that we have in front of us, and that's been given to us by, of course, Windows Central. Who, of course, got it from a Twitter user who AR12. He's a popular YouTuber. He's one of the bigger ones for sure. And he's you would consider him an insider, I suppose. With the fact that Forza Horizon 4 is getting these cars, and these cars aren't just your regular cars. I mean, these are really digging into the Hot Wheels nostalgia. Is it safe to say or even assume that we would be getting a new DLC for an old game?
I mean, I played Forza 4 as soon as I received my Series X in November. A, because I enjoy driving around aimlessly. And
me too. Yes, me too.
And B, and far more importantly, because at the time, obviously, we'd seen the Fable trailer, and sort of playing through the game. It would allow me to somewhat better understand the makeup and structure of PGG, if not sort of do a pseudo SWOT analysis of the studio in lieu of Fable. So far, I feel that for Forza Horizon 4, compared to, say, Motorsport, gives me, or indeed provides me, the best of both worlds in terms of an arcade racer and a simulation experience. In terms of Forza Horizon 4, if you depending on sort of if you just play it on the surface level, or if you want to deep dive into it, it has sort of a simulation-esque sort of depth to it, and you can go to a low level degree of fine tuning and customization, I believe. So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure there's much more seasoned players on the panel and maybe even the chat and the community in the chat as well. But so, as I was alluding to, if you're inclined towards an open world driving game with sort of light RPG experiences, then I would say look no further than Forza Horizon 4. And besides the sort of news that you've just alluded to, I think Mr. Badbit and Archimedes have sort of covered off, the thoughts that probably everybody has. So for me, there is already just so much strength, depth, and consistency in terms of updates and additional content for Forza Horizon 4, which, and that's me, being a newcomer, so my perspective is going to be somewhat different to yours. I say content boom. However, what I should call it is in a sort of an embarrassment of riches, which has been sort of,
I love it.
continually added. And look, boom. I've even spoken to sort of seasoned Forza Horizon 4 players, and they even say, look, even though we've been playing it and we've amassed so many vehicles. And it's still pretty overwhelming in terms of the content that's being delivered for the game, and that maybe should give us some insight as to what the plans are for Motorsport, for Horizon, and indeed Fable across two studios. And as I've mentioned, in terms of Forza, if I haven't done also already, you have options, accessibility, in terms of any level of player and diversity, whereas Motorsport, for me, it's kind of in the same vein as Gran Turismo, as which we've just sort of mentioned, more of a full-on simulator, where I can appreciate some of us prefer to race around, 30 sort of well-known or probably licensed tracks from Brands Hatch to Silverstone, I believe, but that's not really me. So, and I appreciate that they're providing these options, right? But I think for me is that, look, we're in a situation right now where I think that even for the Xbox Series X upgrade, it wasn't done internally at Playground Games. It was actually outsourced. So again, that kind of makes me think, what are they actually trying to do? And I think that they're trying to upgrade, if not build, the technology. And perhaps all Forza duties are appropriated to Turn 10 Studios. And maybe that's something in the production pipeline in terms of how they want to structure going forward, because nobody wants technology to catch up, because I feel that Forza Horizon should be built on newer tech, but I don't want to wait till 2025. and maybe 22, 23. But then I'm looking at the studio at Playground Games specifically. Something seems to be afoot, at least a planned reorganization or restructuring of the studio's foundation and pipelines over at PGG has been or is in full effect. Maybe making 2 games. I don't know, but and you know my sort of status on this or position on this. But making 2 games at any studio, no matter how seasoned or experienced a company or its team, is an incredibly risky, if not difficult and arduous task, and it doesn't consistently lead to the best possible games, in my opinion or experience, right? I mean, I often point to Square Enix dividing their A team, right, to work on Final Fantasy 15 and Kingdom Hearts 3, which both flatter to deceive. And I hope that, I'm saying this because I'm hoping that Microsoft and the studios have seen that and learned from it and built their studios and the pipeline and the production planning and the release dates to sort of to stave off our appetites for another Forza game, but at the same time sort of not to dilute efforts and resources inadvertently, to affect these 2 or 3 3 games. And I'm being purely selfish here, or inwardly looking, which probably a politer way to say selfishly. And I hope that, for me, PGG focus solely on Fable. If they're indeed working on Forza Horizon 5, or if you're looking for DLC I think will still be coming incoming, no doubt, right, to bridge the gap to Forza Horizon 5. And I was going to talk about what I wanted a Forza Horizon 5 to be, but maybe that's for another podcast entirely. But those are my thoughts on it. Boom.
Well spoken as always. Yeah, as a matter of fact, once we get some sort of understanding, inkling, salt, a grain of whatever that we are getting a Forza Horizon 5 today. This year, we'll definitely bring that back around of what we are expecting and what we're hoping for. Jeff Grubb, obviously, everyone knows who he is. He made himself very popular in the last couple of years, being someone that broke a lot of Xbox news. He seems to believe that Forza Horizon 5 will be released this year and Motorsport next year, which would be fine by me. Either or, I think that we need a racer. And I think that it is probably the best type of genre / IP that you can have to put out there for people who are kind of like, well, what kind of graphics does the Series X actually have? And you turn around, you see a new game, a new racing game running on it, and you're like, yeah, okay, I got to get one of these. And I think that's what they're waiting for. But
3-bit. Consider this: if we don't get Motorsport this year and we get it next year, that's a 5-year development.
5 years, dude.
For Motorsport, which is insane because the longest time they had on previous games was 3 years, and just for the first one.
I would say. I would say that's. For me, that's good nurturing or production planning for this particular jewel in Xbox's crown, which I think deserves the development time, given in some years, Boom, I've seen that game has carried the Xbox brand.
Oh, for sure. I mean, listen, when you talk about the Xbox brand and you say, what are the 3 pillars that hold up the emerald green tower? It's Forza is right off the tongue. It's Forza, Halo, and Gears. Now, maybe people are tired of that. Me personally, I'm not. And I think we're going to continue to get it. And it would be pretty dope if we do get a Forza Horizon 5 or a Motorsport in 2021, followed by an epic Halo Infinite, which I believe it is going to be. And we're going to be talking about that towards the end of the show and why I believe, thanks to some management changes, we have now the right pieces in place to make sure that this game releases to a 90 meta, releases to applause from the community, and potentially getting that Fortnite crowd that is now running around with Master Chief, the 11 and 10-year-olds, onto for the free-to-play Halo that's going to be launching later this year. But last and not in no way least, 3-bit, let's get your opinion on this. I don't know how big of a fan you are of Forza Motorsport or Horizon, but with the DLC that was accidentally leaked, is there a chance that we do see some continued support for Forza Horizon 4 in the form of maybe a new track like what's on the screen?
Well, you guys bring up a lot of great points where something I didn't consider is what if Forza became a hub world? I think one of you guys
I
mentioned
would
that.
love that, dude.
That would be interesting because not only something like Master Chief Collection, right, where you're able to experience all of the different Halo Master Chief games, but it would also sort of subside with the Forza Motorsport games sort of becoming a platform in itself right now. Like the new Forza games we know is just called Forza, right? And a newer Forza game could be with the Horizon series as well. That'd be kind of interesting if they did that. But I think any DLC they make with Hot Wheels, that would be pretty great. I think it would, like Bad Bit was saying, it could introduce both new and old people to the game. You know, a problem Microsoft does have is sort of
Yes.
maintaining that childlike IP, which is why I think Rare should definitely bring back some of their older titles like Banjo. But yeah, a lot of kids love Hot Wheels, and a lot of nostalgic people like me love Hot Wheels. So I think they could definitely hook a lot of people into the franchise if they also put it in the new Forza games but what I'm wondering is if they would even do this knowing a new Forza game is coming out, if they will save that for the brand new Forza game coming out, because I do believe Horizon, the next Horizon game will be first. But yeah, I don't know. Would they do that for is a good question.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. Archimedes really brings up a great point when he says that, my God, if Motorsport doesn't come out this year, it's a 5-year development. And I think that on the back end of that comment, not only is he right, but it goes to show you the strength of the brand and the IP, because if you think about it, Forza, people are still playing Forza Horizon 4. And I mean, they have seasons, they have all kinds of things, events going on with it. People are still playing it in an abundance. And I think that's why you keep seeing content in the form of, car packs and potentially new DLC. So it really does take the, I suppose, pressure off of having to deliver a racer ASAP. Now, again, we do want a new Horizon. We definitely want a new Motorsport. But I think that just based on, hey, look, there's Abacaba72. He's usually in the chat. I was racing against his avatar, which he just whipped my ass. So I hated this car, by the way. Hated this car. But I have better ones coming up, so keep watching. But look, all I know is that the nostalgia itch has seemed to be scratched quite thoroughly with what they have been able to do. I mean, think about this for a second. And this is a small topic that no one ever brings up. Do you understand that Halo found its way into Forza Horizon 4? That there was a mission? I mean, are you freaking kidding me? Like, so it's that.
That
I mean,
was
look,
amazing, that
it
race.
was freaking incredible. I played it about 50 freaking times because you see all of the stuff from Halo in a racing game. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
look, we can spend another 30 minutes on why Forza is the best racing, why those teams just continue to dominate the genre. But listen, we gotta move on to the next topic because we're 30 minutes into the show. We got over 350, almost 340 people here, which is unbelievable. And of course, I want to say that if you are new and you happen to find the channel through the videos that I've been doing, I want to say welcome. This is a very cool and safe space. The chat is considered some of the best in the business. And I hope that you hang around, you consider subscribing. And of course, if you're someone that is already supporting the channel, and a lot of people are, hit the like button because it definitely does help this channel grow. And it's a lot of big things coming to the channel, and I cannot wait to share some of the things that we're doing in the background. But let's move on to a small topic that I think we'll have some big opinions about. And what I'm talking about was this one kind of went under the radar a bit, in my opinion. And again, a smaller I guess, blip on the map within the community, but I think a big topic for this particular show. And Microsoft's AAA Studio, known as the Initiative, is losing one of their leaders. Drew Murry has announced that he is leaving the newly formed developer. And before we get into the speculation, before we get into why, and we're going to answer the question is this going to hurt Perfect Dark? I kind of want to just read some of Drew's words, because I think what he says here indicates that the studio is going to be good. But he is leaving to spend time with his family. He's been in the business for a very, very long time. And here is what he had to say on Twitter. After 2 wild years helping start the initiative at Xbox and rebooting #PerfectDark, it's time for me to say a tearful and bittersweet goodbye to my team at the initiative. It has been an extraordinary working shoulder to shoulder with such a talented and experienced team, many of whom are great friends now, but my life outside of work needs more attention and headspace than I have been able to give it lately. So I'm stepping down from my role. Mystery surrounded the project when I joined the studio. I didn't know what kind of game it was. I didn't know we were going to make a Perfect Dark, and I didn't know anyone on the team. 2 years later, we announced the franchise with the trailer that still gives me goosebumps. Most importantly, the team has the vision and talent to knock the game and franchise out of the park. My silver lining to all of this is that I'm excited to join the screaming masses on Perfect Dark launch day to experience the game. Listen, folks, I have heard from behind the scenes that he wants to spend more time with his family. I see nothing wrong with that. I also want to add to the conversation, when you look at the high caliber talent that has joined this studio in the 12 to 18 months, I do not think that, remember, the bread has already been made, right? It's in the oven. It's been baked, and now they're going to start serving the bread with the hot butter, right? I think that we are closer to Perfect Dark than anyone wants to admit, and I think that him stepping away now does not mean the studio is in trouble. I think that he has personal things he wants to take care of, and gaming, he has, in his opinion, based on what he said on Twitter, he has done everything that he can do. So he's leaving the studio in the hands of very talented people. I do not see an issue with this. Joe, we usually see this. It happens all the time. Now, this is much different than what's been going on in 343, where people were stepping down, stepping into the role, and 2 months later quitting or being reassigned or being voted of no confidence. This is a guy that has, in his career, have done a lot of amazing things. The most notable, obviously, is rebooting Lara Croft, which was a dead franchise. And he then moved on to the initiative. And I think that he's the same tenacity that came with the reboot for Lara is going to happen for Joanna Dark. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, one thing sucks that he, that he had to leave, but yeah, it was due to, family stuff. Life happens, man. And I think in this year we can all understand that. And so, though it sucks that he's gone, when we think about game development, we often have those question marks of, whether it's personal or not, of this is going to change the game, right? Like, the game that's going to come out is going to be different because someone else is going to step in and they're going to have a different creative vision, or try their best to envision what the original director had in mind. So there's going to be some turns that they're going to take along this journey that are going to be different from his original vision. That said, we often don't know how development works in games, and we often, use the jump to conclusion map to kind of figure it out. From what I understand, depending on where the initiative is in its development cycle, they're still figuring out certain elements, and they're still trying to see what works and what doesn't. And so, when you have animators from Naughty Dog and Santa Monica come in, that the studio is going to probably be in good hands. It's now how you utilize those people, because you
Yes.
can have a very talented team. You can have a very talented director, and a game goes nowhere. We see that with EA all the time, but we see it with, with the Star Wars Visceral game. So like, I'm curious to see when it's out, and they're all celebrating, what the original idea of this game was, what happened when he left, and what the finished product ended up being. So like I have no doubt in my mind that this game's going to still be good, or that anything is going to change. Like I don't think we're a year out of this game, so I really don't think the game is. I think we're still making the foundation of this game.
Yes.
So knowing that we're probably still around the foundation levels of development knows that, or gives me the idea that nothing crazy is changing here. They probably have some storyboards, some VO work, and some animation done, but really for the most of this game, the hooks and everything aren't implemented yet, I would assume. So yeah, I'm fine with this. And yeah, it sucks because it's a different feeling of, he didn't want to, but you knew he had to. And it wasn't because someone was, shoving him out the door. It's because, something very personal happened to this man. And, I've saw some really nasty people say some really nasty things.
Yeah. People are disgusting, dude. Like,
so,
it is just, listen, look,
some people need help, but yeah, that's, I have faith in this game. And I can't wait to see Xbox have another staple mascot on their side this gen. So I'm pumped.
I absolutely agree. I am really looking forward to seeing exactly what they do with this game, and more importantly, what his role was to reignite the franchise. Emil in the chat says Drew Murray left the studio because of his brother. I think he meant to say his loss of his brother. See, I did not know that. And obviously, he said that's a personal
I've
reason.
heard that too.
Okay, so I did
apparently
not
he
hear
tweeted
that.
about that, and then he deleted that tweet again. Probably for some, I don't know, whatever reasons. But that's apparently the reason why he left.
Yeah,
okay.
And it sucks because look,
then now something like that happens in the world that we are living right now, where the pandemic is still going crazy. People are trying to spin a narrative out of this. This is really just sad.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting, and those people should be absolutely ashamed of themselves.
100%. If you are someone that was jumping on this bandwagon for the man leaving because his brother passed away, you're a piece of shit. I'll say it right now on the air. You're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the screen and I'm annoyed because I see that my incredible footage that I spent to 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, and I shut off the HDR. That's the crazy thing. But
did you got the Elgato?
Here's
right?
the thing. Yes, I bought not one but two Elgatos. I have the HD60S.
Okay.
And I'm in the process of converting everything over. I'm no longer going to use the stupid Xbox record mode until they fix it. But I'm going to start using the USB-C cable isn't long enough, so I had to order another one. So I haven't used it yet. That's coming, I think, on Saturday. By Tuesday, I'll have everything set up for the PlayStation 5 HD. The HD. Elgato for that, and of course the Elgato for the Xbox One. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to watch it in slow motion. But listen, let's let me get to Archimedes. Archimedes, look, Drew Murray brings a tremendous amount of knowledge, passion. He's a gamer at his core. He is responsible, not just him solely, obviously, but he was paramount in bringing back Tomb Raider to greatness. That's the reality of it. And now he joined the initiative. They're bringing back Perfect Dark. I expect the same kind of triumph for him because he's still going to be in the credits, because even though he left, he still was there when they made it. So he's still going to get the the props for it. What are you expecting with him stepping down?
Okay, first, Boom, I have to correct you slightly. He didn't work on Tomb Raider. He was
He
at
didn't.
Insomniac. He was the director
Why
of
did I think that he was part?
Resistance and
Oh,
Sunset
my
Overdrive.
mistake. I'm mistaken him from someone
The
else. Thank you.
studio head, Daryl Gallagher. That was the
Oh,
guy
yes.
who
You
did
know what,
Tomb
dude?
Raider.
Thank you for the correction, because for
No
some reason
problem.
I thought, and I wonder, because Joe actually said in the DM maybe he's gonna leave and go make a new Resistance, and I was like,
yeah.
okay, well maybe he likes that game, and I got those two confused. Well, thank you for the correction,
No,
but
no problem. Okay,
but
listen. So somewhere end of last year, I was at a management seminar, and I had to learn that at least here in Europe, the regular or average turnover in a company is about 5%. So if you have a company with 100 people working there, 5 of those people will leave in average in every year. Yeah. And 5 other new ones will step in. That's just the normal thing. There are different reasons for that. People have to leave for family reasons. People have to leave for career opportunities. People leave just because they don't like their boss. That doesn't necessarily mean that the company is bad. It's just personal issues he might have with someone in the company or whatever. There are tons of reasons.
yes.
I had the best job in the world up until 2016. The problem with that job was that I was never home. I had to travel 3 out of 4 weeks every month.
Oh man, dude!
When my
That's
wife
awful.
got pregnant, I had to make a decision. Do I want to see my kids grow up or not? And so I decided to leave that job and get a different one. And I'm not saying I don't like my job. I'm just saying I left the best job in the world for personal reasons.
Yeah.
So people are making a bigger deal out of this than it is. It is a big deal for him. He has his reasons, and I bet it was not easy for him to make that decision. But to see the studio or the game in problem, or Xbox has a problem, Xbox is doomed, whatever. I've read so many nonsense online.
Pretty silly.
It's just stupid.
It's just despicable at this point. Again, because you know the reasons, and we want to be, normal people want to be respectful to that. But then you got these weird Twitter people out there, and you know the usual suspects of like anything positive PlayStation, anything positive Xbox. You get the usual suspects in there that are just trying to tear something down.
Exactly.
For I don't even know what reasons anymore. It just doesn't make much sense.
Attention
just
seeking.
maybe
I think that
attention seeking. Yeah. And so honestly, like I get when people are like, well, what's the difference between this and Halo? Well, Halo was months before this game was supposed to release, and now a year out. That's the difference of like this game we're assuming a 2023 game. That's the difference here. It's years out, whereas Halo was months out.
And even if he leaves like 6 months before the game comes out, that doesn't mean that the game is doomed. That just means that he has a reason to leave. And as much respect that I have for him, but there will be other people who can fill that gap, and then that game gets a little different touch because I don't know, the next guy will take over, and whatever name he will have, he will put his a touch to the game. That doesn't mean that it's going to be bad. So I don't think that is something we have to worry about. And like you said, it's completely different than with 343, where we had just a feeling that there is some disconnect between the management of the studio and the developers, and of course the fan base. So it's a completely different story.
I agree. I mean, listen, folks, all I can say is that I think the studio is going to be okay. A perfect example of this kind of situation is Cory Barlog. I don't necessarily know what his personal attachment to God of War 2. He obviously did God of War 1, did a great job on it. I don't know if he's attached to that, but even if he's not, does that mean that God of War 2 is going to be terrible? No, that just means that he's off to do something else. And, there are people in place that are going to step up and do the right thing by the franchise. And I believe that even though this is a reboot.
Perfect example, actually, if you don't mind.
No,
like
please
Brian
jump in.
Intihar.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Brian Intihar, creative director on Spider-Man 2018, arguably one of my favorite games this last generation. A lot of other people's as well. Super successful. He had little to nothing to do with Miles Morales, right? And look at what I think his name's Dave Horton, the creative director on that. We love Miles.
Yes.
And so like creative visions,
one trophy away from a platinum.
yeah. So like that's the thing that I think we often lose track on. If the game is on a right track and the conductor leaves and there's a new conductor, it doesn't mean that conductor is going to make new tracks. They're going to just study the course,
Yeah, no, I absolutely. Listen, everyone has had some really great points. And like I said, I think that we are still going to get an amazing game. I cannot wait to play it. I don't know when we're going to play it. I think it's closer. I don't have this on a good authority. I'm not a developer, but I think that they are closer than I would imagine that maybe in the spring of next year. I don't think it's this year personally. I think that would be too soon considering the studio was founded in 2018. So maybe early 2022 is what I would like.
3.5 years. I mean, that's not unrealistic.
That's not unrealistic at all.
Depending on the scope of the game, yeah. If you're building a huge open world game, which we all know this game won't be, or assume that it won't be an open world game, then it might be short. But for a more linear game, 3.5 years is not that unrealistic. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn. 3 years, bam, there you have it. Yeah, but of course that was an established studio. But I'm just saying it's not unrealistic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's get VJ's opinion on this. VJ, listen, again, you bring a certain knowledge to the show, which is what we love about having you a part of it. You've seen both sides of the coin, and when you have someone like Drew Murry step down. Again, he's not being thrown out. He's not fighting with people in the studio. He's simply had what if it turns out to be that his brother did pass away, that's a travesty. And obviously that's something that maybe he has a hard time handling, and he said his headspace is not there for obvious reasons. Is there room for concern?
Well, I would say a tragedy has a way of redefining one's perspective on life, right? So
absolutely, that's a fantastic point.
I don't know if it's true or not. I'm not in the know, but I think that's an important factor in anyone's decision. And we've seen it happen throughout many studios, people leaving, and not everybody wants to advertise the fact why they're doing so. So it has to be done in a cordial manner. And regardless of what you think of the initiative, what you think of the Perfect Dark reboot, that aside, what I would say is that listening to Mr. Badbit and Archimedes and yourself, I think in the defense of all types of creative studios all around the world in general, whether you're making video games, movies, you're just doing animation, or whether you're making music, or whatever the discipline is, change is an evolving truth we should embrace. We should embrace it rather than sort of be perturbed by, let alone fear it, which again, I'm sorry, I don't know if it was you, Boom, or Mr. Badbit that were sort of depicting the kind of irrationalism that was occurring on Twitter. Souls.
It was Mr. Badbit.
Yeah. At the end of the day, in terms of people or souls, whatever you want to call them, no matter their rank, form, experience, or condition within the gaming or any other creative industry or endeavor, do tend to move around from project to project. In some cases from company to company, and in extreme cases, even from industry to industry. So I think we and the media get too focused and too easily distracted, and thus obsessively attracted to the inconsequential. That's how I would put it. Somewhat like moths, when they're attracted to a bright light source, comes to mind. And sorry, I finished The Medium, and that was one of the lines that stuck with me. So, or an infatuation, if you prefer. Talent surrounds us in abundance. It's not an issue this day and age. There's plenty around, plenty of upcoming talent, and perhaps 3-Bit can talk more about that because he's in the present and now. And and we would be wise to acknowledge, I would say, the old adage that there is always better on the horizon, and I mean like more talented people waiting to be discovered and employed. And to a much higher degree, what I would say, there are few individuals with the ability to sort of inspire, cultivate, and that have a clear vision and able to run a studio. And regardless, again, of what you think of Daryl, he has that experience in abundance. He's been at plenty of companies, and under him, he's employed good people to produce good products. And you only have to look as far as him appointing Corey, right, as a creative director over at was it Crystal Dynamics, right, for quite an extensive period. So for me, it's the ability of a conductor to harness the talent and extract the perfect symphony. And I've spoken about this before in detail, from an assembled sort of sections of an orchestra that sometimes, if not always, impacts the project and its outcome. But so what I'm saying is, as long as the key creatives, vision holders, and effective producers who are critical, and we've seen that over what's happened over at 343, and those guys remain focused and continue to spearhead the project. And in this particular case, with Phil's backing, there really isn't anything that cannot be surmounted. And again, you can see that to a degree with what has happened and continues to occur at 343 and its mini revival. Perhaps 343, sort of being in the industry, sorry, not 343, perhaps 3-bit being in the industry at the present and now can shine a clearer, unbiased, I would say, a clear, unbiased light and on proceedings, since I'm old and he's the next generation, so to speak. That's my sort of take on it, Boom. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. 3-bit, I do want to get your opinion on this because you are a part of the industry in more forms than a lot of people even understand. And when I want to ask your personal take on this, when you have someone like Plaid Knuckles, as he's known on Twitter, step away from a big AAA, quadruple A, as the studio has been known for, what does that do for the team? Like, does the team fall apart at the seams because he is no longer a part of it, or do they, out of respect for him, carry the torch and continue forward?
Well, I'll just say balancing life and your passion is something I constantly talk about with my friends, and because sometimes things happen in life just takes over on what's important, and there's many times I've seen a leading person leave a company during the beginning or even end of a production, and it's just common, and people adapt, and I've seen it for both good games that have come out and bad games. It's just it's a common part of development, and I think the initiative has a lot of just a ton of talented developers at the studio, ranging from Rockstar Games, right?
Yes.
Santa Monica.
Yep.
And I definitely do think the studio's in good hands regardless. I'm glad he wasn't leaving due to internal pressures of the studio, having mismanagement, but it's saddened that it was something to the extent of his family. But let me just say the conversation on how important of a role does someone like a director impact development on the game. The impact really varies on the type of studio, for sure. But people who says the game will suck now really are ignoring the major percentage of the other talented developers that are probably working there. The amount of veterans in the industry working at the initiative is for sure the top of their game. I'm sure it wasn't very easy making that decision, but I'm sure he's leaving in good conscience based on what I've seen him write afterwards, with a great team behind him. And moving to different positions, not only is it common, we can I think it was you, Boom, who mentioned Cory Barlog, for example. He started off as just an animator on God of War 1, right?
Yes.
And if I'm not wrong, he had such an impact on who Kratos was as a character. They decided to hire him later on as the director of God of War 2 and also the newest God of War, I believe. So you never know who's going to have an impact on the game, and it's not always just a director, right? There's so many people underneath the director that has an impact on who you are seeing on the screen. And I'm very optimistic for this game. I think the game will probably come out in 2023, and it's cool. We're getting a 007 game from IO, and now we're getting a Perfect Dark, both sort of spy-driven action titles. After years of those games being droughted out, so either way, I'm looking for this game to come out, and I think people who say those things really need to sort of just go into that these people are just people. A lot of people are dealing with things in their life, and they could still be very talented people underneath those people. So
yeah, no, I think that when you look at the way the studio was built from the ground up, and he was a part of it, the talent pool that has flocked to the initiative. We listen. We've seen the names. We've seen the companies and developers they've come from. We know the titles that they've worked on. So, do I think it's a big loss of the initiative? Absolutely. Do I think that the initiative is now going to make a terrible Perfect Dark? The answer is no. I think we're going to get a fantastic reboot of this franchise, and I think it's going to potentially start the long list of older IPs making new comebacks on the Xbox brand, and obviously we're going to get that with Halo this year. We're getting it with Fable. We're getting it with Perfect Dark. We're going to see some more Forza. We're going to see some more Gears in one form or another. And then I would love to see them continue this trend, with Banjo and Kazooie, potentially Conquer, a new Crimson Skies, a new Mech Assault. I mean, I can go down the list of OG Xbox games. I'd love to see Ninja Gaiden return to the Xbox brand as an exclusive. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that are going to come about the bringing back some of these OG characters. I think Perfect Dark is one of those that needed to come back. I'm glad it did, but I also think that the studio is going to be in very, very good shape moving forward. I do want to move on to topic number 3. And this one, if you follow my channel, I did a video regarding this for Halo yesterday. And the reason why I decided to continue it as a topic today is because I gave you my opinion, but there's usually a cast of 5 other, gamers that may want to express their opinions on it. And this comes to us that we've learned that there's some big changes at 343 Industries regarding their management. And with the very rocky development of 343's Halo Infinite, there have been calls for both the gaming media as well as the very vocal community for some sort of change to occur on a studio that has now been in development of Halo Infinite for over 5 years. We know that the amount of money, the $500 million that has been invested into this slip space engine, and we understand that there is a lot riding on this. And I wouldn't be a true friend to the community if I wouldn't say that I was one of the more critical voices treading on real concern for the long-running franchise. I mean, I am a huge Halo fan, and listen, I want the best version of Halo available for my new console. But here's where I think we're going to get it. Thanks to his newly updated LinkedIn page, Joseph Staten, who obviously is very familiar, you should be very familiar with the name. He is responsible, and he was the guiding light for Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo ODST, and his final project, Halo Reach, before Bungie split with Microsoft. He has now been given the title of Head of Creative at Halo Infinite at 343 Industries. Now, what does this mean to the franchise moving forward? Well, that is what we are going to talk about. And I really want to go to Joe. Joe, listen, you obviously, people, again, PlayStation first, not a problem because Xbox is first for me, but your love and thirst for Halo literally has no equal. I'm going to be honest with you. I think you're one of the biggest fans going. Hearing that the icon veteran comes back to Halo. The ship is sinking. Let's call a spade, folks. The ship was not going well.
And it's got some holes in it?
Yeah, maybe a couple. I don't know if they're Titanic-size holes, but there was some things going on. And either he saw it and didn't like it, or someone reached out to him and was like, listen, we kind of need your help on this, brother. You know what I'm saying? We need to bring you back in. Now, originally, it was reported that he was coming on as an advisory role. That's confirmed, folks. But now he's head of creative, which means that whatever he's doing over there, okay, he has some good ideas that they were like, yeah, we got to get this guy back in the position. Now, I thought originally, this is just me, I thought that he was going to eventually replace Bonnie Ross. And I'm not treading on her at all. I met the woman. She's very passionate about it. But when you look at what she's done as the studio head, it's been very rocky. I mean, listen, if I were to say otherwise, I'd be a fraud. And I'm not dumping on Halo, but you got to call a spade a spade. And here he is. He's now head of creative. I love that idea. I love the fact that we're going to potentially get, classic Halo that we all know and love in new ways with Infinite. I think we're going to get that. What are your thoughts of his promotion, Joe?
So these are one of those things that like happen on the back end. Like this was when they announced Staten was coming back to 343. We all kind of saw the writing on the walls for the previous
I would agree.
director. And then when that director left, we then kind of assumed Staten had it. So, seeing him in charge of this ship, I have a tremendous amount of faith that, look, I'm going to be the ride or die here that thought, again, PlayStation guy, oh, look at me, I got a PlayStation controller, Xbox is dead. I was on the camp that I thought the gameplay looked dope already. Like, the Master Chief is cool, and you gave him a grappling hook. Like, I was already sold.
Me too.
So, seeing Staten, who is a legend in Halo, history in the production end, was awesome. And now seeing that he's in the creative lead kind of gives me a lot of faith of seeing where this thing's going to end up. Hopefully, knock on all types of wood this holiday. And, this really just reaffirms what everybody thought back in August. But I think they really piecemealed all these announcements because they didn't want to seem like the ship was on fire, though the ship was on fire. So they really piecemealed all these announcements going, okay, this person left, giving you reassurance that Staten's here, and then Staten now becoming the overarching head. It'd be awesome to see, you all know me, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I would really love to see Staten after this role, kind of go, okay, I'm done with this project now. Let me help oversee what Halo is so that we can have this Kathleen Kennedy esque figure that's running the whole studio, the management portion. And then you have Staten as this Filoni-like character, kind of going, okay, so this thing works in Halo, this thing doesn't. Let's make a Halo Wars 3 here. Let's see what we can do with Infinite there. That's where I'm excited to see where Halo goes into the future. Because again, like we all talk about it, Halo needs to be a success for multiple reasons. But
yes,
100%. I think by the time, and listen, let's get pumped, let's get hyped. Okay, by the time this game comes out and it's great, and I'm rooting for this game to be my game of the year. This is my most anticipated game this year, even as a Sony person. By this time, I'm praying to God we get at least a teaser of the Halo show, and that Joseph's happy again. Joseph feels again. Joseph believes again. I'll start going to church, So I'm excited. The long and short of it is I'm very excited, and this is awesome to see that we're also getting monthly updates about Halo as well. So kind of giving reassurance to fans. That's what we always yearn for. We want transparency, and it looks like we're getting it slowly but surely. And oh my God, did you see how awesome the battle rifle looked?
Yeah. Yes,
did we take a look at that, baby?
Yeah.
Oof. Everybody's freaking out about that 9-foot tall lady, and I'm just looking at that battle rifle. You know.
Well, yeah, she's you're talking about the 9-foot lady from Resident Evil, the
Yeah.
Village. Yeah, she's a tall one.
I mean, is that BR 9 feet tall? Because it's we're looking at the love of my life there when I'm playing Halo.
Yeah, well, listen, it's going to be. I think we're going to get something special. I really do. I think that the extra year of polish is going to come to the game. I think that if you look, everyone knows my feelings on Halo 5, story wise, but you cannot argue the graphics. Right,
Dude,
you can't argue what they did in 4, what they did in 5. Right,
the tracing of the frames, it's going to be dope.
Yeah.
I just can't wait when this game comes out and all those people on Twitter have to eat shit.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. It's certainly going to be fun. Yeah, no doubt about that. Archimedes, let's get your opinion on this. Look, Halo has been the talk of many podcasts, specifically the Xbox Factor podcast, because we love the game so much. So when there's something wrong, I think that if you are a true fan, you got to call it out. I think that if you are over analyzing things, looking to pull a story that isn't there, that's where we get into the weeds of things, and we don't do that on this program. So, bringing up the Joseph Staten situation, what are your feelings on this? I mean, obviously, it's a title. We understand that it holds a significant amount of weight. His name itself holds a significant amount of weight to Halo itself. Do you feel confident that he is making the creative decisions that could potentially make this a Game of the Year contender?
Oh, absolutely. I also made a video about this on Monday, and I've been saying it. They had a lot of issues with the management, and we really didn't see much change in those positions. We have seen him brought in as the head of campaign, but that's about it. And then, him seeing now stepping up to head of creative for the Halo IP, which is still probably the most important IP for the Xbox brand, is a great thing. To see that a new guy, new or old guy with a lot of experience, but new to the studio, is now in charge of things. That really gives me confidence for the future, that they make the necessary adjustments to go into into this generation. I mean, we are still in the very beginning, and I bet we see a lot more Halo than Halo Infinite this generation. Joe teased it. Halo Wars 3 is something I'd love to see to return. Or, of course, we will see what the next Halo game will be, or how they will extend on Halo Infinite and so on. And for him to oversee all those decisions, this is an amazing thing. So that's really a good thing. And by the way, I just wanted to say that this blog update that they gave us last week was really good. I highly recommend that to check it out, because they really talked a lot about what they are doing over the last year before the Halo game comes out, how the game is finished, what is important for them in the development decisions, and what they are trying to focus on while they polish the game up. It was a really good blog entry.
Yeah, it was, and it gave a lot of information. Obviously, I would definitely suggest you check out Archimedes' video on it. And it was a good breakdown of what exactly is going on and what we can expect. And when you think about it, and I'm really glad you said that, Archimedes, because the game is done, folks. It's done.
It is, and they are just fine tuning it. And let's be real, a year, even a little bit more, apparently, than a year, is a lot of time to fine-tune everything. So I really am confident that we are getting a polished Halo experience. And from what they talked about, what their focus is for the gameplay mechanics and the feel of combat and the feel of exploring the open world Halo ring, it really gave me confidence that we get a Halo game that deserves the name Halo.
Yeah, I think you're right on that for sure. BJ, let's get your opinion on this, brother. Joseph Staten returns to a franchise that was having some difficulty. There's no other way to put it. I'm not saying the franchise was dying. I don't think it was unrepairable. I think that they put out a game, they put out a trailer that for me excited me because of the gameplay. I don't really think the graphics were that bad, to be honest with you. As a matter of fact, I used it in plenty of my video, and I thought it looked fine. But when you're talking about putting out a new Halo, rebooting the franchise on a new console, you got to bring the goods. Thankfully, this gentleman seems like he has the chops and he has the knowledge to do that. Under his tutelage, can the game be a 95 meta? Could we see the return of the king in Master Chief later this year?
So you're asking me if the stars are aligned?
Pretty much, yeah.
You're so good in phrasing and wording.
I'm not an astronomer by any stretch of the imagination. I get dizzy just looking at the moon. But look, I haven't had much time to think about this topic, so apologies if I'm shooting from the hip and if my thoughts are a bit rambled. But in this particular case, from what I'm ascertaining from what my panel members have already said, I feel sort of deep within my waters or a gut feel. So it's not fact that the appointment of Joseph since 343's brush with danger, or indeed in some quarters, I'm sure people think it was a shipwreck, depending on which media outlet you read. It's a good call if he's supported long term. And I think that I made this very point last year when he was appointed, that he needs to be given the support. And sort of given Halo's quite public difficulties and the sort of seemingly obvious case, right, on the surface of an absent landlord or management's dereliction of duty and therefore loss of control and direction over the project, somebody had to be brought in to steady the ship, because whoever was in charge wasn't doing a good job, and let alone having a vigilant eye on, again, a jewel in Microsoft's crown. And so I think once everything was clear, and I'm alluding to the post-mortem that obviously has occurred, and again, 3-Bit can chime in, Phil, I believe, since I think an issue of that magnitude had to involve him, I don't think he could have left it to Bonnie and Matt. And I think it's due to Bonnie and Matt's inability to sort of navigate the murky waters of development. And again, 3-Bit can chime in. It seems no one was willing to take the helm at 343, a poison chalice, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, dude.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So since again, a post-mortem review has probably taken place, and now Joseph is or was willing to take the task on delivering the cargo in good order, in this instance specifically Halo. I'll repeat what I said last year. Matt should or may well needs to be replaced by someone of Daryl Gallagher or someone of that ilk. And we can go much deeper into that sort of, and to sort of how I feel that the old guard is holding back Xbox and inadvertently Phil's vision, as I like to call it, on another podcast, because I think that's a separate issue. But secondly, what freedom has Joseph been afforded? I don't think it's time in terms of the length of period of time. I know that you're saying that the game is finished and a year should be more than enough time to add polish, balance, and refinement in order for it to hit the Metacritic mark that we'd all like to see it reach. Once again, especially since the date of release, and we know that with the current world conditions, even though it's been cemented for the anniversary for next year, it may well come early or be delayed or whatever. I'm not so concerned about that, but I don't think it's time that he's been afforded. And so, however Halo pans out, I can't judge Joseph. In fact, I can't judge him at all on Halo Infinite at all, and no one should. And he's been brought in to resolve a complex shambles, if you want to put it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Absolutely, yeah.
The community needs to register that in their minds, and I'll say it quite forcefully, before reacting in the future. because I think we're far too reactive, and we need to put that into our mindset and put yourself in Joseph's shoes. He is steering Halo Infinite and in turn 343 towards fairer and calmer and perhaps longer term, more rewarding waters. I'm sorry about all this Sea of Thieves analogies. I've just got Sea of Thieves in my mind.
No, VJ, I think you're on point here as well. Like, I'm going to use an example that maybe people will yell at me about. Actually, it's the internet. I know people will yell at me about, but it really kind of reminds me of when was it Todd Howard took over Solo, right? Like he had to. The rumor has it he had to remove like 70 or 80.
You mean Ron Howard?
I'm sorry, Ron Howard.
Yes, not Tom. I was like, Todd Howard did that. Wait a second.
Yeah, that's why he's 76 or something like that. Yeah. So like, and so like that movie had to be like most of it reshot.
Yes,
and that's why that movie isn't as cohesive as what some people wanted it to be. I personally love Solo. I'll fight anybody to the death. It's a Star Wars. But like that's what this kind of movie reminds me of like a director's in a role late in term during shooting or during production. It's not panning out. They remove him. They put in a stable director in place. Now we have to see where it pans out. Now, again, movies and games are not 1-to-1, right? But go for it, VJ.
But and I've got a few important points here that might sort of perk you up again, Mr. Mithri. But sometimes it seems we should just have a chat offline. But anyway, I remember if you recall the 2020 year-end statement, Joseph, to his merit, and I think you recall me saying this, put his reputation on the line publicly.
Right.
And also of certain colleagues that were mentioned alongside him in that very article. And let's be clear, this is not Joseph's team. And going back to the analogy or the fact that you were just portraying now, Joe, this is not Joseph's team. He will want changes. The chemistry in the studio needs to change. After this,
there's a lot of things that need to change at 343, and I'm hoping that I'm hoping that he does bring a steadiness to the ship. Because listen, folks. Look, you can browbeat me and say I'm an a-hole for saying this, but look, let's get 343, current and get Infinite out this year. It's going to be a great game, but this madness that has gone on for years with directors and producers running in and out like they're changing socks is unacceptable behavior. Something is going on over there, and I'm hoping that the return of Joseph Staten fixes all of that. At least he could start building up the stability around the team again.
But Boom, to your point, it takes time, and patience is something that current modern day society lacks. So a creative director will have a vision and saddle with a good producer, which I think is really important. He needs time to reshape and rebuild 343, all the while trying to secure the future of Halo and ship the game. My question is twofold. Has Joseph been strong enough to tell Phil what he needed today?
Probably.
And also the leeway beyond Halo Infinite that he wants, and thus look to seek assurances, because this is a big bet for him and a big bet for Microsoft as well. It goes in tandem. Number two,
I think it's a bigger bet, not on Staten, more so as for Microsoft. Look, Staten, I think he could walk in if Halo, let's just say, God forbid, bombs. Let's just say it happens. Staten gets to walk away from that kind of relatively unharmed, going, "Listen, I did what I can do here."
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
so I doubt that he's telling Phil what he wants to hear. I think they hired Staten because Staten's not going to bullshit them.
Well, no, he's got to go to Phil. I'd have liked him, and I think he did, go into Phil and say, "Listen, I know where the situation is. This is how I can rectify it, but this is my long-term vision for the project." As I say, no matter the quality of Halo Infinite, we cannot judge Joseph Staten. That's my point. And let's not forget, go straight. This game for better or for worse, goes straight into Game Pass day and date, which a lot of people forget, and it's it's a fantasy in some, if you're a console owner of the opposition or whatever you want to call it. But this is not Joseph's truth, right? He's coming to effectively be the savior. These days, I'm kind of appalled that I call sort of in all walks of life that the nature of the populace these days is to hang, draw, and quarter someone even before the accused has even had a chance to hear the oath, and that's my issue, right? And I don't want us to be reactive as a community. I probably haven't answered your question fully, Boom, but what I am saying is that patience and long-term outlook is really important. And you have to look at the fantastic Hive Busters. See, some of that was someone talking about toast and butter earlier. And
I love it.
And the furtherment of the coalition is firmly on display compared to the original base Gears 5 games.
Yes, strong point. That's a great comparison, dude.
So it's and I know that 3-bit is probably chomping at the bit to sort of chime in because he understands the core philosophies that I'm sort of just sort of hovering above in terms of touching upon, and but 343 was being run and operated like a job or an endeavor that needed to be achieved to hit a target, again because of the people that were designated, employed, or given the responsibility of delivering it. Again, as I say, it will take time for Joseph to rebuild the studio and deliver a game and make it into a creatively led hub, right, where people are allowed to play gracefully with ideas rather than pull levers in a sausage factory. And that is a massive change. And I think if we can understand that, we can understand where Joseph is at and what he's trying to achieve.
No, yeah, I mean that's a great point. I want to bring 3-bit in, but before I do, I have to thank a couple of super chats. First of all, the first super chat of the day comes to us from a very generous friend of the show, John B, and he says this: "I'm just afraid that people are going to judge this game with a lot more scrutiny than any other game. Any little misstep will be magnified unfairly." I have confidence that the gaming, I mean, listen, it's hard to say that I have confidence in the mainstream media because I honestly don't. I'm sorry. I just don't. I think that it's a very new school way of reviewing and opinionizing games. And I think that their generation is just not what I look to for my information. I look to YouTube for people who are going to play the game for 72 hours and then give me a review or an opinion.
Well, real talk, I like talking about like news YouTubers, I think we're the worst because like no matter what this game does, that person's right. It's under a microscope.
No, he's sure.
Yeah, there's going to be 18 different YouTubers giving a hot take of not reading an article, miswording something, and then like going with it. You're like, I'm that's my fear too, is that this game it isn't getting a fair shake strictly because of and some of it maybe rightfully so, because the development's been they set the narrative themselves when the development was this bad, right? So like, yeah, I understand why there's a microscope there, but I have that same fear as well, for sure.
I mean, again, only time is going to tell. Master Jazz 09 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "If Halo Infinite is good, Bonnie is gonna get no credit for Halo Infinite, even though most of it because of her. You're gonna give Staten all the credit." Nah, I don't think so, dude. She is the head of the studio. Now, if it fails, well, I mean, like Mr. Babbitt just said it. Joseph Staten walks away, or he rebuilds the team, and man, Halo's in trouble. Do I think it's gonna fail? No, I honestly don't. I think that right now they brought the big guns back because, listen, I said this in my video. He has under his tutelage. Understand the ramifications of him being back here. Under his watchful eye of a IP that he loves through and through, there has never been a failure. Even ODST as a side piece was dope, right? And everything that he has been a part of has succeeded both in sales, in critical in critical response from the community, commercial with the sales I just said, the reviews. He has been a part of something that has always found a way to win and win big. So do I think that, just because his name's attached to it, that everyone else is not going to get credit? No, I don't. There's more people than him. But he's listen, there is some chaotic shit going on at 343i, and you need a proper captain to steer the ship correctly. And I think that's what he does. But let's bring 3-Bit in here. Again, I love having you a part of this panel because you do a lot of things that you don't know, you don't talk about publicly behind the scenes in your current position for work. And this is one of the particular position, conversations that we can have that you can enlighten us. Does someone like a Joseph Staten bring a bit of sensibility and stability back to a project that seemed a little bit off the rails?
Yeah, his position is very interesting in the timing of when he joined the studio, right? Where he joined near the end of the project. We had a previous director, which was Chris Lee. And I do think they most likely removed Chris Lee the way they did out of respect. We know Chris is still working in another position at Microsoft, as
Right.
Staten did outside of Halo for games like Recore and a couple other games. He was still sort of working, Staten, sort of still with Microsoft in certain games outside of Halo. So it's a very interesting position to be on, joining a project not only near the end of it, but also during a pandemic, right? So not only does he have to deal with the fact that he's not seeing his team in person, but he's also dealing with them possibly online, and also now the new director of a game towards the end of its development. So a lot of interesting things there, but I think any new Halo comes with grand expectations, and if any Halos is up to it, I think Infinite definitely is. They have a whole year to figure out a lot of things. A whole year of polish is an amazing position to be in any studio. They have this time to really learn the RDNA2 technology kits, optimization, possible. Maybe they cut some features because they didn't have time to on their initial release date. Now they can add it back in, like additional side missions and stuff like that, right? But yeah, I think one of the feelings a lot of people are looking for in a new Halo title is what I sort of felt with the older ones, which is like exploration and freedom. It's sort of this weird sandbox hybrid that Halo is. But yeah, I think Staten, he's just in a very interesting position. He does have that freedom, like Bad Bit was saying, where he can sort of walk away from everything without huge accountability. And I think Bonnie Ross is, if anything, under the radar more than a lot of other people because of 343's mismanagement. And I do have friends who work there, and they all say the management is not the best. So I think, if anything, this is a good start because Staten, I think he's a great director. And I think, if anything, he will sort of help the ship, if not, because to me, I don't think any Halo is terrible. Like, even the worst Halo to me, I always say, like, the worst Halo to me is still a great game overall. So I don't think Infinite will be bad at any stretch of the mean. I'm even more optimistic now that Staten is involved. He's very passionate about the Halo franchise. Just go back and look at scenes where him and his team are figuring out the story for like Halo 2. It's a great documentary you guys should check out. But yeah, either way, I'm optimistic about it. I'm just very curious on like what his initial impact is going to be. I think it's pretty large considering how much trust Microsoft seems to have in this decision. So I guess time will tell.
And the fact that he has a lot of time. I mean, he was brought on the project team in July or August or someone.
He came in literally a few weeks after the debacle.
So let's say August.
Yep.
And then he has almost 1.5 years to put his touch on the game, which is quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I don't think adding him is a hindrance. I think bringing him in was a necessity, to be completely honest. And again, 3-Bit said it. He has friends that work there that will remain nameless, and that are that can quote and saying, yeah, the management isn't the best. That's a freaking problem, bro. That is a big problem.
My dad works at Microsoft, and he says 3-Bit's alive.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm not going to challenge you on that. If your daddy works at Microsoft, maybe he owns Microsoft. Maybe Satya Nadella is your daddy.
Yeah, that's Sati's my daddy. Yeah.
There you go. But listen, folks, again, this has been a great show. We have had we broke a little couple of records because the numbers were kind of wavering. We had over 450 people here, which is pretty dope. So if you're enjoying today's program, and we're gonna hit one more topic before the end of the show, hit the like button, share this on social media, and if you're not already subbed to the channel, please consider subscribing to Double Barrel Gaming. But Gotham Guy, very generous friend of the show. I got a chance to meet him in person. We are always going to have a real unbelievable connection. If you don't know the story, Gotham Guy was someone that listened to the program, and he was going to E3. I was going to E3. I went with the Iron Lords, my brothers, and I tried. My God, I even tried to use hooks to get into FanFest. Sadly, I couldn't get in. I tried. I did the regular route, and then I did I might have a small connection route.
And somehow you don't get in, but Luke Lloyd does. Come on, see why I hate him, Boom. You see why I hate him? He doesn't deserve it.
I mean, well, Luke does a lot of good things, so he deserves it for sure. But Gotham Guy had made me his +1. And I never met him before. I met him there. We're still friends to this day. And it was pretty dope that he did that. And he says this, after dropping $20. Thank you for your generous support. He says 400 people in the chat, Boom, but you'll get 3,000 in due time, my friend. Shout out to your channel, and a big shout out to Archimedes' channel. Love the way he explains gaming tech jargon in the way that I can understand. Yes, he definitely is the perfect example of how to explain the industry for dummies. So I learned a lot
so much. Really appreciate that. It means a lot. Means a lot.
Yeah, I learned a lot from him as well. And listen, you know what? Listen, shout out to Dealer and those guys. I mean, they've earned every sub. They've earned every viewer. They got 3,000 in on a regular basis, and that's because it's a really good show. So again, will we get there one day? Maybe, but who knows? But let's move on to
optimistic. Boom, you're gonna get there. All right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen,
I don't want no naysaying out of you.
Well, listen, as long as I can get Greg Miller on the show one day, not on the Xbox show, we'll get him on another show because obviously, but then he plays Xbox too. It's weird. We'll talk behind the scenes. Topic number 4. This one is a scenario that we have discussed on this program to nauseam, and there's no doubt about it. And of course, we're talking about acquisitions. But why this particular conversation that we're about to have is super important is because of the latest rumor. Now, he's not the person that we're talking about, and I want to get his name correctly because when you talk about YouTube channels and you talk about sub counts, when you see people with 750,000 subs, you're either really good at what you do, you have inside information, you are someone that appeals to the community, or you have a combination of everything. And this guy apparently does. His name is Angry Centaur Gaming.
Love A.C.G.
Yeah,
man.
he is. You know what's crazy? As much YouTube as I watch, I didn't know who he was. So
really?
I did not know who he was. His real name on Twitter is Jeremy Penter. And he's awesome. I just found out his channel. And the where he made this announcement was something Duke. It's an Xbox /PC podcast. I think I might have it in my show notes as I read it through. But look, as we know, Microsoft has already confirmed they are always on the lookout for new acquisitions, and head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, has even revealed that the team has some major surprises to announce in the coming months. Now, rumors about new publishers joining XGS or Xbox Game Studios have been floating around the socials for quite some time, and more importantly, the gaming forums for a while now, with some sources suggesting that the company could announce a new acquisition this year. Now, obviously, that is not going to happen before the March 5th, signing of Bethesda. Which again, there was some talk in the community that the EU is going to somehow hold up the the transition of getting these studios because it's a monopoly, and I'm going to tell you why that's not. Listening to Kind of Funny, which I do on a daily basis, Gearbox just got bought up by a developer who, by the way, has now, I think it's 80. It's like, no, it's not 80. It's like 56 studios.
No, I think it's a crazy number. The Embracer Group.
Embracer Group. Thank you, Joe. Yes, they have a ridiculous amount of studios under their belt, and all of their sales have gone through with no problem. Gearbox's acquisition is going to go through with no problem. So, considering that Microsoft is going to go from to a total of 23. It's not considered a monopoly in gaming, considering when you have someone that has 3 times the amount of studios, even 4, with Gearbox. But let's get back to the topic. Here is what A.C.G had to say on the Xbox podcast. He says this: the reason why the game is exclusive is because Microsoft is in the midst of buying them, and then it will be in their stable. And then the co-host asked him, hey, listen, any way you can give the information? And he says, I absolutely will not divulge any details. I have friends who work there. So apparently, according to inside knowledge, which is what I would consider that, Joe, he knows people there. He himself called it a AAA title that has not been announced. He has said firmly that Microsoft is in the midst of buying them. Okay. Now we have to fan the flames here, folks. We have to start fanning these flames because we don't know who it is. It's an unannounced game. So I know a lot of people immediately thought that the zombie franchise that I cannot remember.
Left 4 Dead?
No, not Left 4 Dead. The one on you're parkouring.
State of Decay.
No, you're parkouring. It's first person.
Dying Light.
Dying Light. Jesus Christ, I always forget that. Yeah, Dying Light. Well, I still think they should acquire that studio. To be honest with you, I think they should acquire several studios. I'm not going to go into that, but now we have to talk about firsthand knowledge and what that means and who could they be talking about. See, the one thing that we know, I think it's safe to say that we're definitely getting Halo this year. We're definitely, I'm pretty good. I'm going to bank on that we're probably going to get a new Forza. So those are 2 big AAA titles from Microsoft. They're big because they're AAA and big, and because they're first party shit. So they're big. But to get another AAA banger in your release list that you just purchased is a big deal. The question is what and who. Joe, any idea to what A.C.G is talking about? Have you heard any rumors?
Yeah, no, Microsoft's still looking to buy stuff. So I wrote this really nice thing about Xbox a few days ago, and I got no traction. And God forbid I said Control looks amazing on PS5, and I alluded to this is how you should play on next gen. And people yelled at me about it. And I was like, they're like, Joe, you're the worst. You're a PlayStation fanboy. And I'm like, just look at the last tweet I made, y'all. Stop yelling at me being mean. So I wrote this thing when Google Stadia was getting out of the race. It's interesting because Stadia leaving isn't necessarily them leaving. It's them saying, hey, listen, we're not going to do this whole, we're going to be a publisher thing. Instead, we got this tech and we're going to offer it to people. And then you're seeing Amazon's which right now has some management issues when it comes to gaming, but the new CEO coming in and going, gaming's going to be a priority for us.
Oh yes, absolutely,
And
dude. Yeah, yep.
you're seeing Microsoft put in the labor, put in the work to establish something with Game Pass. And I think what it shows is what happens when you put in what is a large investment, but not enough impact when you go small instead of going big, or instead of going huge. Microsoft put all their eggs in this Game Pass basket, and
They did, and it was risky, dude. A lot of people listen, dude.
It still
I
is.
remember being a part. Well, it still is, absolutely, dude. That's. I mean, listen, 18 million subs is nothing to sneeze at. But I will say that in order to continue the success of this, in order to see, because so Sony's doing it in a way I don't agree with, because I don't want to pay $70 games. I'd rather just pay for a service. But they're sitting back and they're watching Microsoft go through all of the growing pains. And quite frankly, they've been doing very well, Microsoft, with this.
Yeah.
But again, I'm going to say something that Phil said, and people really took it as disrespect for Sony. And he did not mean it like that. And Joe, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
When he said his competition is the Apples and the Amazons and the Googles, folks, these are entities with lots of money, big amounts of capital to buy studios. This is why Microsoft is going to still be aggressive.
And that's my main point here is Microsoft, like, it's not being disrespectful to Sony. It's the fucking truth, y'all. Like, let's be honest with each other here. When it comes to the Sony umbrella, like just Corp, Microsoft dwarfs it. It's a huge entity. And it's so big that it's come to the point where the governments of the world are going, okay, whoa, is this getting too big? Right? Like, that's how big these companies are. Like, when they're seeped into literally every single aspect of life, whether you're at home watching TV, sitting in your car, or even going to sleep, these companies are monitoring it. Now, don't want to get too Orwellian here, but when Stadia left, I think Microsoft breathed a sigh of relief, and it goes to show Game Pass's dominance. PlayStation guy saying this. What is dominance in this marketplace because they paid their way to get in here.
Yes.
They spent billions of dollars acquiring devs, acquiring publishers, so that they have this year-round content consistently, that they are a distributor, of games, of just the cloud variety, of being on your mobile, being on your console. We alluded to this in the beginning, where the console market isn't growing, and Microsoft and Sony are trying to find new customers to their platforms because it's not growing. Microsoft's bet is, okay, since more kids are on their tablets, let's introduce tablets to Game Pass. That's Microsoft's big bet here. So they're going to go out anywhere they can get a chance to buy something, to acquire it. They're going to go out there and they're going to throw their effort in. I have no doubt in my mind they saw things like Gearbox and went, hey, Gearbox, what's up? What's going on? How can we help you out? There's no doubt in my mind they've gone to smaller devs, smaller teams, and said, hey, what's up, y'all? How's this money? And some deals go good, like Ninja Theory, and some deals don't. There's no doubt in my mind that Xbox is constantly trying to find things that broaden the portfolio of Game Pass. And it's funny because, last episode, I kind of alluded to, oh, maybe they would buy a THQ Nordic, because these are a lot of games, and they're not necessarily all bangers, but you get a Dying Light in there, you get a Saints Row in there, and that could be your, hey, Game Pass game. Right? Like, where it's not hitting the 9s on Metacritic, but doesn't necessarily have to type of games. And now look at the Embracer Group, who owns THQ, just made a larger investment into the Borderlands family. So, I think Microsoft is constantly trying to find things, and I think in the months to come, you'll see Sony answer to that as well. Because no doubt Jim Ryan is looking at some of the acquisitions Xbox is making and going, oh, you're buying our partners here. But if I'm Xbox, you're in a really good position right now. I think we miss that because a lot of the angles on YouTube is Xbox versus PlayStation, where the true threats are Google coming in, spending billions to get a foothold, and Amazon coming in, spending billions to get a foothold. I don't necessarily think Apple would, because they're too premium and they're too up their own ass when it comes to entertainment. But when it comes to Amazon, that's a huge threat, because Amazon has the infrastructure like Stadia. It has the relationships like Xbox and like Sony. People don't realize this, but Amazon powers a lot of online gaming, a lot of websites. Again, I always go back to this. Fortnite servers are using AWE tech to get Fortnite running. It's using Amazon to get people onto Fortnite. So Microsoft sees there are still threats in here.
Yeah.
But I am thinking at the end of the day, we are going to see more of Game Pass. And it seems like with tech, they don't necessarily understand what makes gaming tick, because we are such a weird audience. We're very unusual in terms of like the rest of the tech space. So like I definitely see that we're kind of setting up towards Xbox is going to be the dominant thing. They're going to be your Netflix. Whatever PlayStation does this year with Now, probably going to be the Hulu.
I was just going to say that's a great comparison, dude. Because I think you're right on. I think you're onto something with that.
Yeah, because like Hulu isn't as good because it's got ads, but like it still gives you content.
Which is gross, but keep going.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like as a PlayStation fan, as a PlayStation fan, you kind of look at Sony and you want them to buy something because you want them to buy something. It's not necessarily something they actually have to do, but like when you see what would happen, their portfolio would have to change. So you're going to get it probably a service like, and not as good as Game Pass, but you're still going to have that there. Whereas, Microsoft's true competition is Amazon, and trying to buy enough space to intimidate Amazon to work with them and not against them.
Yeah, that's
how I see it.
No, that's a fantastic point. Archimedes, let's bring you into the conversation. But before I do, I have to catch up on some of these incredible super chats. Good friend of the show, generous friend of the show, JD Gamer, drops one, not just one, but two super chats. The first one, $5, says, MS is going to buy Sega, Asobo, People Can Fly, IO Interactive, and an unnamed Korean company. I hope it's that one with the Monkey King. That looked freaking awesome. I'd love.
I would definitely think if you're Microsoft, you're probably gonna try to peer into China and try to see what
100%.
developers or studios they have. IO doesn't need it. They got. I like where they are independently. Honestly,
yeah. You know what? I don't think they would want to. I think that they're in a good space.
Asobo has just been. Not to necessarily say acquired, but
purchased. They had money put into this company.
Yes,
yeah, they had a huge amount of cash fly in there.
So I don't think, unfortunately, that's a Microsoft thing. And when it comes to Sega, you always like to, but like when we talk about the Sega Sammy thing, that's like Sega Sammy's just our arcade division that closed down because of COVID. So like Sega. We still don't know because of Japanese red tape.
Well, I mean, a perfect example. One of the heads of Sega just stepped down. Like he's gone, and you're going to start seeing more of that. Now, people are equating that to the potential of a takeover from Microsoft. I don't know, but look, I put it to this way: I think Sega's great. I think they have great IPs, but for me personally, as someone that looks at what can a studio bring. And JD Gamer's second super chat for $2 says, "Oh, and don't forget about them buying Techland." You see, it's those smaller studios that I want. Into
Techland is a possibility. I would like to see Techland.
People Can Fly is a possibility as well. I like the little studios that could. You know what I'm saying? With the 100-man team. 100-person team, I should say, politically correct. And I think that's what Microsoft wants to do. We had a big bomb of Super Chat come in from Gary Duddle. Thank you so much for the outstanding $20. And he says, thanks for talking about driving games today. They get little publicity. So many great franchises like Forza, Dirt, which is obviously you saw me playing today, Project Gotham. I'm still hoping, in my hope of hopes, that there's going to be a third game added to the rotation for Microsoft, and they bring Project Gotham back. I know that they don't. I don't know if Bizarre Creations owns the IP or is that Microsoft, but I would love to see a new. Listen, you know what? At this point, I would take a remaster of Project Gotham. You know what I'm saying? Like, bring it back and give it the bells and whistles of 60 FPS and Series X graphics. You know what I'm saying? I will take a remaster. Yeah, it says Midtown Madness. Oh my God, dude, that's a good one.
Yo,
Blur was
Midtown
fantastic. Split
Let's
Second,
go.
fantastic game.
Yeah.
Wreckfest, I reviewed. The crunch tech in there is just crazy. Like the fenders are flying all over the place. Didn't handle as well as I would have liked, but it's still a good game. Chris Hughes Senior.
I just saw you eat shit right there. Boom.
Yeah,
dude,
I wiped out.
like,
It was not good.
The Dirt 3 footage you got here makes me want to buy this game real bad.
Dude, I will say this. I'm going to say this to everyone watching. We have over 400 people here. Please, for the love of Jehovah, buy Dirt 5. It is so much fun. I would dare even say that I've been going back and forth between Forza and Dirt. I'm going to get booed for this. I know it. I'm actually enjoying Dirt. Like, I'm really enjoying Dirt. And I think it's half price now. It is so worth your money. My God, it's so much fun. Chris Hughes Sr. drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says Amazon is spending $500 million per year on gaming. Yeah, that's a lot of money, no doubt about that. But thank you for the super chats that continue to come in. I do greatly appreciate it. Let's get Archimedes into the conversation. Now, look, again, where we get our information as podcasters, when I put these shows together, it's very difficult to just go on a whim. I mean, I will pull a story from like a Gaming Bolt. I will pull a story from some of my comicbook.com. I happen to really like these sites. I read them personally, but I also use their information. The name of the Angry Centaur Gaming dude, Jeremy Penter,
A.C.G,
talked about he talked about it on the podcast is called Defining the Duke, which is pretty dope. It's a pretty dope name because they're talking about the control for the OG Xbox, and I think that's a nice play on words. I bring this up not to retread, they're going to buy or something again, but this is coming from a very prominent YouTuber that has 750,000 followers and subs. That's a big friggin' deal. And more importantly, his firsthand knowledge, because he has friends that work there, make this as credible as you could possibly get. When does this acquisition happen, Archimedes?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I don't know whether he was really referring to an unknown.
No, I don't think it's unknown, but I think that the game might be unannounced.
For sure, because I bet the game he had in mind is, for instance, Starfield or Wolfenstein or any of those Bethesda games. Because the way he worded it is that they are in the middle of the acquisition of the studio, which we know, the ZeniMax deal is still going on. Yeah, and after that they will announce that. So I think that might be what he was referring to. However, we know that that there are new acquisitions coming. Whether that was the reference A.C.G meant or not. Of course, after the Bethesda deal has sealed, we now have more or less a date for that. That's 5th of March when the EU has to approve that deal. And we all assume that after that, they finally can start to work as one company. And I bet that we get some sort of welcome to the family event or something like that. And where they will announce their plans for those Bethesda studios, where they will show games like a Wolfenstein 3 and a Starfield and so on. And the acquisitions, I bet that we won't hear about new acquisitions, to be honest, before the E3 substitute event. I mean, that if not even later, it's time for them to actually show off first a couple of games that they already have announced, that they have in the making, with those 23 studios, and then generate a little bit more hype with new acquisitions for games that will then, of course, come in 2022, 2023, whenever. Yeah, so that would be my guess when we hear about new acquisitions. But the good thing about this is we as content creators have a lot to talk about over the upcoming year. There will be a ton of news, and that's a fantastic
I tell you,
thing.
it's going to be listen, regardless of what flag you fly, like me, I fly all flags because I absolutely love gaming. I love it so much that I have now factored in weekly videos on top of still playing, being a gamer and playing games, and 4 live shows. That's how much I love this industry. That's how much I love this community. And that's how much I love talking about games. I think that this year, we're going to be very surprised. I think one of the conversations, and again, this is not for today, we'll talk about it another time, is I think that we are going to be in the conversation of delays. I think that we're going to see a lot of delays. I think games that were further out than what we had coming in late 2020 that had been pushed to 2021 are going to potentially be pushed even further into 2022 because COVID is still a thing. It's still ravaging the world as we speak, and even with the vaccine, people are just not getting it fast enough. So again, that's another whole conversation. But VJ, let's get your opinion on this. You know, there are several people in the chat that believe that he was in fact not talking about the ZeniMax deal, that he was talking about something else. You know something, even though Archimedes makes a shit ton of sense, and it literally, if you follow the breadcrumbs, what he's saying sounds right. But for me, maybe it's my hopefulness that he wasn't talking about ZeniMax. I'm hoping that he was talking about someone else, because we do, and we have heard, VJ, that there are other studios that Microsoft is in the process of potentially acquiring that are going to be announced this year. And what are your thoughts on ACGs?
I'm hanging on something that Archimedes said. Perhaps it's European conservatism on display, but
you got me there.
I have to wholeheartedly agree with Archimedes' opening comments. I think they hold incredible amount of value. Since last year, I've been quite exhausted with talk of more and more, and the thought of a shiny new Buzz Lightyear seems to spark or incite some sort of rejoicement and celebration. It reminds me of the scene where the steward of Gondor in The Lord of the Rings is salivating and feasting relentlessly without remorse or manner. My mind's wandering as the medication. So my mind, based on Archimedes' comments, wanders sort of towards the quality and gameplay of what is currently tangible in terms of the 35 teams across 23 studios. Forgive me if I've got those numerical numbers incorrect. And this, for me, is far more critical, of far more critical importance to me, I would say. I would like to sort of listen and see more of the here and now. And to Archimedes, his resounding and resonating hymn, which he's been singing since last year, of show me gameplay, is ringing truer and gathering pace and importance more and more every day. Last year we dismissed it to a degree. I wasn't in total alignment with him. I was saying there's more time, but at some point in time, what he's saying is actually going to be true and ring true, and those bells will be ringing in harmony, no doubt, on this very panel. So all the narrative surrounding a possibility, which mostly ends up on the heap of spun tales, is a little bit tiresome. If you can bear with me, I would like to repeat what I said.
Yeah, sure, by all means, go right ahead.
So I would like a clear roadmap as to what the releases are this year for Game Pass, from first party, second party, timed exclusives, third party announcements. And forgive me if I've missed a category of any sort. I'm not asking for things to be set in stone, because given the current pandemic, it's the last thing anyone should be hampering or hankering on about. But just a clear showcase of intent and communication to and for the community. The business model Xbox have adopted, which we've touched upon in Game Pass, is completely different to Nintendo and Sony. And we touched on it last week as well. It's a paradigm shift. And what I believe with that comes new responsibilities and a communication perspective to the ever-growing community of 18 million subscribers. If that's not the total, perhaps even more. Yep. Well, Sony and Nintendo, for me, still make self-funded games to a large degree and hope that upon release, they will sell units and they recoup their investment. We as an audience or as a customer can choose not to purchase those said new games or IP. And that in turn can greatly affect the future of the IP and even more so the studio. And we've talked about this constantly, even 343 we've been talking about. It can affect predictability in quarterly and annual revenues and profits, which historically and predominantly has caused unpredictability in video games company shares and historical investment into the gaming industry in general. And we've seen it time and time again over the decades. And Konami is like the most recent sort of case in point, how they've kind of almost pulled out of gaming completely because they have 10,500 other people, employees that they have to look after, and how they manage their investment. So let's say, for argument's sake, 20 million, for argument's sake, in Game Pass contribute almost 3 billion in annual cash flow funding for Xbox to do so they please and produce whatever they want. Do you see and understand the distinction between the two sort of shifts in the business models? It's unprecedented what Xbox is doing, because a lot of it, I understand that they've had to fund it themselves over the last few years, right? Only now that they're reaping the rewards with the power, as people say, the most powerful console on the market in terms of the Series X and so on and so forth. But the point is that their games aren't truly sort of judged upon release. The others are funded in advance, so no matter the outcome, they can't predict it. So for me, it's the Game Pass initiative is good, but at the same point, I see it as a never-ending Xbox Kickstarter project, if you like, for a better terminology or for argument's sake. So the questions I have: how much of that revenue goes towards the bottom line? Because obviously profit is important to Microsoft. How much is allocated to Game Pass first-party and second-party projects? How much is left to create timed exclusives content for Game Pass? And then how much is actually left to create older content for Game Pass? And just for an example, I wanted to see Judgment, a 3-year-old PS4 game, and people may say, no, it was released a couple of years ago. No, it was released 3 years ago in Japan. Should be Game Pass with no. And this goes to what Mr. Badbit was saying, Joe was saying, because the PS4 version, which I bought and played and completed and I loved, has no PS5 free upgrade. This was an opportunity for Game Pass and Xbox to help illustrate the difference and clear benefits to potential Game Pass users, which we've been talking about, is how do they get that? How do they make that leap from 20 million to the 2 billion in terms of the benefits between Game Pass and the traditional model of having to pay $60 or $70 for a game? Yep. Many people still today, and I've talked to people that are PlayStation owners, because I used to play a lot of PlayStation, and they browse through Game Pass and psychologically feel they can live without Game Pass to a degree. And it's true. And I think that is a hampering point that Microsoft has to break the back of. And here was an opportunity to, again, illustrate $60 for Judgment on PS5, which should have been a free upgrade. No matter, it doesn't matter, because it's free in quotes in Game Pass via smart delivery. And as I say, the issues Game Pass has right now is illustrating, and we've talked about this and I've heard about it on other podcasts, the disparity and the consequence and value between Game Pass and what Nintendo and Sony offer. People talk nonsensically, to my opinion, of Xbox purchasing Sega when they can't even get Judgment or Yakuza Like a Dragon into Game Pass day and date. What about Final Fantasy VII Remake when that exclusivity expires on April 11th? Stick the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I agree. Well, they have a good. Here's the thing. That's a great point, VJ. That's a fantastic point. I know we're a little off kilter because we're talking about the acquisition, but bringing Final Fantasy VII to the Xbox with the advancements of the Series X and S, that's going to be front and center. Right. Do they put that into Game Pass? Because if they did, wow.
Yeah. And I love the points that VJ made here. I think, the one thing that we always, and still something that we kind of wonder is like, how much of when we buy a game, how much of that percentage goes to Xbox? How much of that percentage go to, Sony or Company A, Company B, development team X, right? There are some questions here. And I think what VJ says is like, hey gang, listen, we get it. Xbox is buying out everything, right? It's exciting because it's exciting to us because we've been hungry for years, and then Daddy's finally feeding us. But what if instead of incentivizing it with purchases, you're incentivizing it with more services?
Yeah.
Right. So like, yeah. So I like what VJ's saying here is just like, let's not say Sega because they won't even give us judgment on Game Pass, right? Let's not say Square Enix or whatnot. Let's see what Game Pass could do for us right now, because VJ, excellent point here, and it's not something that some people may want to hear, but saying it anyway is important. It's like I'm sorry, VJ.
My point is here, right? They announced 15 billion in profit, right? They announced 20 million in Game Pass subscribers, and you know me, Boom, right? When I'm not happy, I'll tell you that I'm not happy, and I will express it. And when I'm really, happy, I will express that too. But instead of Final Fantasy VII Remake, we get Final Fantasy 12. And for me, at least, these are massive marketing and illustration points to help consumers understand exactly what Game Pass is all about. And that's the thing that I think that Microsoft is missing. And I don't know who's running that part of the division, and maybe part of the old guard, which is another topic entirely. But keep in mind that 3 billion is going to grow to 6 billion. Make no mistake that Game Pass will reach 40 million. A minimum, right, in a matter of time, right, because we know that there's big hitters still coming, and a lot of people are on the fence. But the Xbox division, with its studios currently, to my lowly mind, probably costs 650, 700 million a year to operate prior to the Bethesda acquisition, which will basically, as we understand it right now, will be self-sustaining. We fund, as consumers, Xbox. Forget about Xbox. We fund Game Pass. Make no mistake, and I expect more. And I did some calculations on behalf of Sega and Xbox, and I'm really sure that these deals could easily have been done. But again, I go back to my first point. We don't know the roadmap. And if we did, maybe my perception and outlook would completely change if the communication was better in terms of what is coming down the pipeline, rather than having to wait till June and sort of like, sitting here, sort of wondering what may or may not occur. I mean, I can only go by the facts that are in front of me, and in fact, the facts that are in front of all of us. But Boom, just a nod of appreciation. This is a fantastic topic that got me thinking, and it really did evoke a plethora of us, or a superabundance of thought. And we could be here for another 2 hours just on this topic, but I just appreciate the chance, actually.
Absolutely. Again, you always bring some thought-provoking wordage, if you will, to the conversation, and we definitely appreciate that. Real quick, before I get to 3-bit and we get everyone out of here, we have CYV Studios drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, I just finished the medium last night, and even though I'm not a fan of horror, I really liked it. Boom, keep making the small videos weekly. Oh, thanks, dude. Super appreciate it. I'm at the end of the medium. I have not beaten it yet because I've been recording video to, obviously I have video playing in the background, and, that's going to continue through every show that I do that's live. 3-bit, listen, where do you fall on the conversation where Archimedes made tremendous points about them? His opinion sounded like A.C.G. was talking about the purchase that we all know about, where I think I fall on the other side of the aisle thinking that, nah, man, it's not that. I think what he was referring to was something that is not been talked about, because that's the way he presented it. Where do you fall?
I think it's interesting because we do know that Microsoft is intending to buy new studios.
Right.
They literally said it right after the ZeniMax deal. So I think as to what studio, that's a whole other conversation. But I think both Archimedes and VJ brought up really good points. I think the roadmap of intent, as VJ brought up, will become clearer over time, because perhaps in June, where E3 usually holds an event. But I think it's very awesome to see Phil lead Xbox, because you can see how his vision of Xbox becomes clearer over time, throughout the years, right? If anything you can rely on with Xbox right now, or what their vision could be, is probably the ease of accessibility, with you being able to play on multiple systems and Game Pass evolving. I think over time you'll start to see the power of Game Pass when all these games being announced day and date, just over time. I believe that's when you'll start to see how powerful Game Pass can really be, even though right now it's to me one of the best deals in gaming right now. Um, but yeah, we've had a while of time of games not coming to Xbox exclusively, like Outer Worlds, for example, where that game wasn't exclusive to Xbox on day and date. So, PlayStation owners didn't really feel the effect of that. But there is a lot of games about to be released on Xbox in 2021. And I think that's when people are going to start feeling it. And we've been thinking about what company Microsoft will purchase for a while. And of course, I always ask the question on who they will buy, consistent on if they fit for Game Pass and if they are a private company, because we all know private companies are easier to acquire. And Microsoft's current history of buying out studios has been a private company, like Mojang, Compulsion, and Bethesda. They're all private companies. Now, I just want to bring an interesting thing to the conversation on a couple of different companies that might be pretty awesome to be acquired. Epic Games and Valve are private companies. And they're bigger than Bethesda, which fits sort of Boom's previous rumor, right? If we're bringing all the rumors into circulation here. I think Epic Games would be great, not because of their IP necessarily, because while Fortnite is great, I wouldn't purchase a whole company just for Fortnite. But what's great about Epic would be the Unreal Engine, and a lot of Microsoft studios use the Unreal Engine like almost exclusively to this point. Then on top of that, a lot of different companies from, let's say, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they all use Unreal Engine, which means they pay royalties to Epic because they make a certain percentage of revenue from those games. So they could cut that percentage out and make direct profit from Epic Games, if it is Epic Games, right? Or they could even go to Valve, which is
Gabe wants to retire. We're well aware of that. We know that there was a conversation between Microsoft and Gabe Newell, and it would be a big deal, not so much again for the IPs that you're going at, but it's so much for Steam. They would literally make money hand over fist.
Yeah, that would fit the whole thing with Game Pass, possibly adding Steam into the mix, but they would also,
I think that would be, I think that is like the fit.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with you, Joe. Yep.
Yeah. So just to end there, yeah, I think those two, if they were to purchase like a private division, Gabe Newell doesn't want to stay in there very long. And also, I think having Valve or Epic Games would fit them. Most likely Valve, though. I think that fits them probably.
Yeah. And if I could just for just a quick sec, I think Valve makes the most sense because Gabe has signaled it in the past. Gabe has had a working relationship, was part of Microsoft at one point, kind of knows how the structure works, probably sees Phil's idea and likes it. You kind of unify that PC platform with Steam. If you all of a sudden own the largest, PC games marketplace, and then introduce them to Game Pass there as well, that's a huge get. Epic would be pretty cool because we've seen Microsoft go into, like, I think they own Havoc now, if I'm not mistaken, but now they own the id Tech as well. Like that is one side that like everybody says, oh, Fortnite, but it is like that Unreal Engine is huge. But Epic is also they're also beating to a beat of their own drum, and they're also doing very huge things. And you got also Tencent there as well that you'd probably have to have also very big payout for as well, which they're the entity I don't like, to be honest. But yeah.
Yeah, well, listen, again, if it turns out to be something like, I don't think me personally, I don't think it's Epic. I think that the purchase that is, again, what I heard, and people are human, so they get things wrong. When they say, remember this, just remember for a second. Good old Boom talked about this weeks ago. I would even dare say months ago. And last week and the week before, what were the mainstream media running with? My exact words: a Bethesda level purchase. Right? I said those words. I get zero credit for it. I get a lot of shit for getting stuff wrong. And thank God you bailed me out, Boxer Bear, about the Drew Murray thing. Oh my God! I can only imagine that the YouTube chat section is going to be unbelievable. Broom, you got it wrong. Well, I'm human,
Dude,
so thank you for
that's
that.
always the case when you create content.
Yeah.
I sometimes have also shorter or smaller mistakes in my videos. Obviously, it's just what happens. And whenever you do the slightest misstep, people really come at you.
Yeah, that's okay. Listen, I listen. I wore a gun and shield for 21 years and served my beautiful city of New York. I've heard it all, so trust me. A couple of bad comments are not going to scare me away from doing content and being awesome to this community, who is, of course, awesome to me. But listen, folks, this has been a great show, man. We had almost 470 people here today, folks. That is a big deal for a small show like this. I hope you enjoyed it. We hit all 4 topics, and we figured out a way to contextualize them into, like boom, 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 boom. So the flow of the show never lost. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. I've switched it around a bit, but once I get my capture cards set up with the Elgatos, I'm not going to have any slowdown anymore. God damn it, Xbox. Sometimes I want to punch in the face, but listen, folks, if you enjoyed today's show, before you get on out of here, let's get those thumbs up. Let's get some some positivity from me. I definitely would appreciate it. If you're new to the show, of course, I want to say welcome with open arms and consider subscribing to the channel. So let's get into the outros, and we'll get everyone on out of here. We're going to start with you, Joe, first. You got some big things coming up for the trophy room. Obviously, Greg Miller from Kinda Funny is going to be gracing your show's presence shortly, and hopefully we get some confirmation on when that is going to happen. Listen, folks, if you are someone like me who supports multiple channels, you do owe it to yourself to check out Mr. Babbitt's The Trophy Room with him and his best friend Kyle. They are a positive show that talks about the fun things about gaming through the lens of a Sony fan, but then at times talks about the good things about Microsoft as well. Joe, tell everyone where they can reach out to you on social media, and more importantly, check out the Trophy Room on YouTube and on all of your favorite RSS feeds.
Look what came in today. So we have a video version of this podcast, right? On YouTube, you can check out the Trophy Room.
Nice. That's the Sony something 3000, right?
Sony A6000.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
So I don't know anything about cameras, but what I do know is this is a nice one. And so I want to thank first and foremost, man, Pateron. Patreon.com/PS Trophy Room. Y'all did this. Our videos are going to look fantastic. We also have De Niro Primero making something really special for us. So like the next
better than the other one he did for you.
Oh, it's another level.
That's unbelievable. I listen, folks. Again, you've seen the intros. De Niro Pinero. I mean, seriously. Listen, all of his information is in the show notes. If you are a YouTuber looking for some quality, incredible artwork with talent that goes on for days and days and days on end, you got to hit this guy up. He's done 2 for me so far, and he's going to continue to help evolve the channel. And man, what can you say?
And yeah, so again, the video version of the show next week is gonna be crazy. The production value is insane. We got 2 awesome lights I control with my phone. It's gonna be nuts, is what I'm saying. So you can check out the Trophy Room where me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest, the greatest in all things PlayStation news. This week, man, we talked about the PlayStation sales. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. We talk about, and we get hyped for Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
Oh yeah, man! Mine's pre-ordered.
I expect all of us that week to wear the helmets and do the podcast. I know we're gonna come in muffled, but it's gonna be worth it. We talk about MLB The Show coming to Xbox, and also the flaws in that and the not so smart delivery of PlayStation. So it's a really awesome dive, and it really, I think, this episode more than others, more than the rest, really illustrates what the Trophy Room is about. Talking about PlayStation, the ecosystem, without really referring to the us or them mentality of what we see a lot of, YouTube content about. It's just focusing on the ecosystem, and it was a fantastic show. Next week is also going to be pretty cool because we're interviewing Yacht Club about Cyber Shadow. So it's a lot of stuff to look forward to. A lot of stuff. So
Well,
thank you again for having me on. Because this
absolutely, Joe. You're definitely a big
highlight.
part of this show, and I want to tell you I appreciate everything that you do when you bring to it. And of course, you'll be back tomorrow. And tomorrow morning's Breakfast with Boom. Not only is Joe coming back, not only are we going to see the return of Dreadpool, and of course Crispy Bomb and BitCloud Gaming. We have a special guest, also known as someone who is awesome, someone you should be subscribed to, Slow Mo Backslap of the BTS podcast, with of course my brother Gaming Forte, and of course also a part of the Basement Radio Arcade podcast. He'll be joining us in the AM, and one of the main topics of conversation is in fact going to be that trailer regarding Mass Effect, which looked dope, the collector's edition, and who's getting it and who's not getting it. Because if you're not a part of this team, I'm sorry, I'm kicking you off the bus. Get out of here.
That's right.
You got to get that helmet.
Get out.
All right. Well, listen, Archimedes.
Helmet voice.
I hope it does have a helmet voice, because I actually have a helmet voice for the Titanfall one, which is dope. It's one of my favorites, dude.
Dude, I'm so jealous. I skipped on that because I was like, I'll wait till it's like $60. You know what I mean? And man, did I miss out on an awesome collector. It's so stupid.
That's all right. That's all right. Archimedes, you have been exploding on the scene. You've been putting out a multitude of videos, and they've been unbelievable quality. Tell everyone about where they can find you on social media to strike up a conversation, but more importantly, subscribe to your outstanding and increasingly growing YouTube channel.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Boom, for having me on the show again, and thanks to the panel, Bad Bit, VJ, 3-Bit. It's always a pleasure. It's a highlight of my week to be here on the show and talk all things Xbox and games. You can find me at Boxenberger basically everywhere. If you want to talk gaming with me, probably the best way is to do so on Twitter. My DMs are always open, and you can find, of course, my YouTube channel, Boxenberger, where I put up 1 or 2 videos per week discussing certain topics of the industry, sometimes talking about video game tech, sometimes just talking about the stuff that happens. If you like that kind of content, definitely check that out.
Okay, well, I mean, listen, dude. What I love about the videos is you are when you talk about the technically sound aspect of gaming, you take it to a level that I don't go, because that's why I feel out of place. That's why I talk about games, and I talk about acquisitions, and I talk about collector's editions, because that's where my safe space is. That's my knowledge. But when you talk about a lot of the technical issues that come with gaming, you break it down in a very nonsensical way where we understand. If we're on the outside looking in, like I'm like, oh shit, I understand how that works now. Thank you, Archimedes. So definitely check out Archimedes and how he breaks down the videos. That is definitely something you need to check out. VJ, why don't you tell everyone about not only where people can reach out to you and strike up a conversation, but what else you got going on? What shows are you a part of?
I'm currently on your show at the moment.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah. I did want to apologize, Boom, for going off kilter.
No, don't be silly, dude. This is a conversational podcast.
Yeah, no, but going too off topic is a little bit strange. But
no, VJ, one thing you got to stop doing is apologizing.
Yeah, I agree.
You're doing great.
It's not that I blame Archimedes for using old magic.
Guilty as charged.
Mind control seem elementary, but but the thing is, I find myself on Xbox's behalf. I often look at the macro perspective of where we are, where we're going, and how do we get there, and what's missing from our strategic approach to achieve those goals. But anyway, that's maybe for another podcast. But thanks for having me on the show again, Boom, and thank you to the fine panel and the community in the chat for tuning in consistently to listen to me, and above all of us. Thank you.
Well, thank you, brother. Definitely appreciate that. And last and no way least, 3-Bit, you got a lot going on. Do me a favor, brother. Tell everyone about where they could reach out to you for a conversation on social media, but more importantly, check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on the show, Boom. It was great talking to the panel, VJ, Bad Bit, Archimedes. You guys are awesome. I took a bit of a break last week because I was going through some stuff, and I definitely want to thank the community for, being super supportive and checking in on me. I've been doing a lot of animation work for my studio, but if you guys want to check me out, you can watch me on Fridays on Xbox Ultimate Podcast. I'm on Twitter all the time. I'll check out you guys' DMs. the VGHD, and my YouTube channel is the Video Games HD. So thanks so much for having me, and it's been a great show as always. Boom.
Well, thank you for being here. And again, folks, we hope that you enjoyed today's program. If you did, obviously hit the like button, share this on social media, and if you're not already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Of course, now, along with 4 live shows weekly, I am doing at least 1 video. This week I did 2. Last week I did 2. My production values have gone through the roof. Lots of transitions, lots of ins and outs, and thanks to Archimedes and the inspiration of the way he does them, I am now using the same program. And big things coming to this channel. If you want to be a part of it, the best way to do that is to subscribe. But everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. And I also want to close out today's show with something that's important to me. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And it's super important now more than ever. And he used to say, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you on next week's new episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.